Okay, let's kick off. Good evening and welcome to the launch night of this year's CFA Institute Research Challenge. This Research Challenge spans over 2 years. It's not 2 years, it's between this year and a global final finishes next year. So it's a 18 and 19 Research Challenge. Over the next half an hour, I'd like to go through 3 items. So number 1, I just want to talk about what the competition is about. So we'll talk about the progression of the teams. We'll talk about the rules. We'll talk about the time frame that you go into getting a report, the presentation, and how you progress into the global finals. I'll try to give you a bit of advice on the competition itself, just based on experience, what I've seen in the report, and also the presentation itself, where I think it's appropriate. And finally, Michael actually agreed to say a few words about Teleshop, which is the target company for this year, so that'll be interesting. Before I jump in there, I just want to welcome 2 new teams this year. So last year we had 9 universities participating, and this is across New South Wales and Queensland. This year we have 2 new teams, and one is UTS and also WSU. Just put your hand up. Yes. Thank you very much. And also, I just want to thank University of Wollongong, actually travelling from Wollongong to Sydney, so that's for coming up guys. Hope you enjoy your event. So, without going too much into details, I don't want to hold you guys back from the drinks after this session. So don't leave after this is finished. There's to be food and alcohol. Sorry for the camera, guys.
Just keep going, I'm reading. I'm thirsty.
Okay, so as an introduction, I just want to talk about the difference between the CFA Institute and the CFA Sydney Society. So the CFA Institute is a global association of investment professionals that sets the standards for professional excellence in the investment management industry. It is a champion for ethical behaviour in the investment markets and is a respected source of knowledge in a global financial community. So they share a lot of resources, and we all read this information and knowledge. It has more than 150,000 members now. I think I was member number 141,000. Anyway. So the CFA Institute administers the exam, and they write the exam as well. The exam has 3 levels, so for most students, for your information, it has 3 levels. You can start the first level once you are in your 3rd year university, and typically takes you 3 years to complete if you pass everything on first go. Once you complete that with 4-year experience, you become a charter holder. So that's the institute. The society that, so the Sydney Society is the host of the Research Challenge, and today the chair of the committee, Charles, is unable to be with us today. He flew back from his holiday today, so he's just on a flight, I think. So he usually embarrasses the team during this period, so I'll have to do the same thing. So if our committee members could stand up, and I'd just like to introduce them. So we got Beck, Anna, and Alex. And we have Ling, who's not here. Anyway, so we couldn't do this without the committees, and we are all volunteers in the society, and we're trying to bring this competition to you. So thank you guys for doing this. The society is a global network, and there's in the Sydney Society there's 1,800 members, as well as candidates who are currently doing the CFA program in New South Wales and Queensland. And just to confirm that the society is bringing the Research Challenge to you. And when you get into regional final, then that's when the institute takes over the competition. So to get you excited, this is a global competition. Last year there were 5,000 students from across 1,000 universities who competed in this competition. The global winner last year was the University of Lausanne, that's how you pronounce it, from Switzerland. So, excuse me. They won the global competition. The regional final was held in KL last year. So if you were, I'll get to the progression part later. So last year's challenge winner in the local competition was the University of Sydney. They did very well in the regional finals and progressed into the regional final presentation. So in regional final, there's a semi-final and a final. They actually progressed into the final, so they did very well. Unfortunately, the University of Sandway, I think, who beat them in the regional final and who progressed into the final. So Sydney did not progress there. But just to give you a bit of insight, I had a chance to be a judge at the regional final this year at KL, and I just see the calibre of the Sydney University and the quality from the Australian University are just top notch when competing in regional finals. So as a bit of confidence booster, you guys are very high quality and capable of in this competition. So importantly, I'd like to thank our sponsors tonight. So to start off with, we've got EY, who is sponsoring the Brisbane venue, who there are 4 universities participating in that launch event, who will join us if they progress in the final competition. Later, I'll talk about that a bit later. So EY is providing the venue there, and thank you to Investec, who is providing venue tonight as well. And also thanks to Investec, who will be providing and hosting the final this year, which is in October. I'd just like to also thank FactSet, who today, we've got Jim and Jasmine today, representing FactSet. They will provide you with a terminal, a FactSet terminal, where you get to do a lot of research and some of the analytics behind it. Let me hand over to Jim and Jasmine to say a few words just about the FactSet, give a bit more insights.
Good day. Good day and welcome. I'm Jim Savage. I've had a long association, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the history lesson of CFA Society in Sydney. I've been with the I was a founding director and past president in 1996. Not everyone in the room was born, I would assume, in 96. And I also work for FactSet, which strongly supports the CFA Institute globally. We're a sponsor of this research challenge. Phil Snow, our global CEO, who actually had a year of work. 20 years ago, he worked 1 year in Australia, came from Hong Kong, Australia, and then got exported to headquarters in Connecticut. He's our global CEO out of the US. He's also a CFA charter holder. So overall, we sponsor the annual conference. We advertise in the Financial Analyst Journal, and as I said, we provide complimentary logins to the FactSet workstation. Jasmine will cover that a little bit more in detail when we get to that. So just a quick question. So how many in the room, I'm going to talk about the CFA a little bit from a local perspective. I have been here 28 years. I am an Australian. I may not sound it. But how many have either taken an exam or are registered or plan to register, and then let's say next to you or so? So a lot of you. Okay, that's a lot more than 7. So I arrived in 1990. I did level 1, level 2 with thousands of people at Boston University for level 1, level 2. And then level 3, I was on my own for a 1-year assignment here in Australia, and there were 7 people in the room at UTS across all 3 levels. Since then, I think that there was like 10,000 members within the global members of the CFA Institute. I mean, since then, I wouldn't have imagined, what has gone from strength to strength, both here in Australia and globally. And so 6 years later, 1996, our original society was founded. We had 32 members. What that meant is we wrote by mail to 32 members, which we got the address from the CFA Institute in Charlottesville. And we wrote to them and we got them into a room and we said, sign these papers, you're gonna become a member of the local society, we're gonna charge you $50 US. But at the same time, there was 150 people taking the exam in Sydney alone. And so we knew the progression of that. We also actually knew the pass rates. They used to give city pass rates back then. We knew that it was going to grow from strength to strength, but we wouldn't have thought that 20 years later, 21 years later, that we now have 1,800 members, over 4,000 people in Sydney alone taking the exam. Across Australia, there was a recent press release on that, I got this today, there was over 10,000 candidates registered for the 3 levels over the last financial year. And that's a little bit of double counting because you got the December level 1 exam as well thrown in there. So my second question, who's heard of FactSet before tonight? Yeah, that's why we're sponsoring this global research challenge. we won't talk about the people that do terminals. We do workstations. So basically, FactSet provides flexible, open data and software solutions for the financial industry. We bring the front, middle, and back office of institutional investors together within the firm. Our clients locally, superannuation, we have over 200 clients in Australia alone. Our super funds, investment managers, brokers, universities, and other financial organizations that need empowered analytics and data. For those of you that want access to our data, you will have that, and that'll be explained in about 1 minute. So as mentioned, FactSet is a global sponsor of the Research Challenge. What this entails, will be covered by Jasmine. Jasmine's been with us for 4 years at FactSet, a bit longer than me, and as a consulting manager. Part of her role has specific responsibilities for our university outreach commitments and implementing the FactSet application at the Australian universities as well. Jasmine.
Hi all. So thanks Jim. So as Jim said, I've been with FactSet for 4 years. So I'm a client consulting manager, so I'm mainly responsible for onboarding brand new consultants and teaching them how to support our clients using FactSet. So the majority of my role has been to work with both investment bankers and equity research analysts and really help them to utilize FactSet to make their roles better. And what that has to do with the CFA challenge is really on how to get data out of FactSet. It is a product of choice when it comes to equity research because it's easy to use. So you're not going to have to learn to use shortcuts. It's pretty much point and click. So hopefully as Gen Y, you'll be able to take to it like fish in water. But how will you actually receive access to FactSet? So your academic advisors will be taking all of your details and actually sending it to FactSet. We will then our team will directly liaise with you to give you your logins and teach you how to actually log into the terminal. From there, we're going to be organizing a training session. So I'll run you through hopefully about an hour, maybe an hour and a half on how to actually use the product, where to find the data, how to use the product to look at analysis, look at financial data. So in the product, you'll see all of your company financials, your historicals, your estimate data, as well as being able to analyze your macroeconomic environment. Also, some charting tools in there. Alongside of that, what we're also offering is access to our support desk. So FactSet has 89,000 individual users globally, and what you have is a team that supports that online. So you'll have direct access to them to be able to ask them for how to find specific data, but as well as methodology behind the data. So really what you're going to be using is something that investment professionals use today and what you'll probably be seeing in your careers later on. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask me, but I'm sure I'll speak to you guys later.
Thanks, Jasmine. Thanks, Jim. The slide I should have been on is actually this one. So thanks again, guys. So let me get to the right slide now. In terms of progression, I just want to spend a bit of time here on how you reach the global final if you do well. So if you look to the bottom of the slide, this is where you start. This is a Sydney local competition. There's only one winner out of the local competition. There are 11 universities participating this year, and we'll go to that a bit later. If you win the local competition, you progress to the regional competition. In the regional competition, there's a semi-final and a final. CFA Institute pays for your airfares and accommodation to the regional final, as well as to the global final if you progress. So last year that was in KL, Malaysia, for the regional final, as well as the global final. Now, unfortunately for Sydney teams, next year is in Sydney for the regional final. so you may get a cab ride. But the good news, if you do win, it's a ticket to New York. So the benefits for students, I'm not going to go through the details here, but I think you wouldn't be here if you didn't think this will help you, but just let me help you to understand that a bit more. So I think I was saying this to the Wollongong guys last Friday. I spent, I think, an hour there just talking about our industry. And I was saying to them, look, this is a very unique experience. You don't get the opportunity to be involved in this type of research, get access to your industry mentors that's sitting here, as well as the company themselves. You put yourself into a role of an equity analyst. Okay? It's not an easy job, and you learn a lot from it. It's not just the ability to do analysis and the report writing, it's also your presentation, your soft skills. How do you ask key questions? These are very important skills that you need on your resume. Actually, on your resume as well, to do that and perform well at the interview, and also to progress your career. Because you don't stop learning once you get a job, you just keep working at it, and those soft skills are important. So all of these are the foundational side of things which will help you over your lifetime. So this will be memorable for you throughout your life. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, if you win the global competition, it's actually a prize of $10,000 US. Yes, but split between 5 people. Okay. So let's just talk about the timeline here. So today is the launch date. So over the next 4 weeks, we hope you could do your research. And so I want to make sure you, as a reminder, register with the CFA Institute. So I think we've sent you an email with a few things. One, to register, as well as to read up the rules, and also reply back to confirm that you've complied with those rules. Your report should be in the draft state, be able to send to your mentors before the company presentation. That's expected to be on the 10th of September. And that's a Monday. So you get a chance to ask Telstra directly the question that you've been thinking about, which will contribute to your report. So you get an opportunity, once you have the ability to question Telstra to finalise your report, and you must hand in your report by the 19th, which is a Wednesday at noon. And unfortunately, there's no negotiation, so you have to hand it in before that date, that time and date, otherwise you will not be accepted. Once you hand it in, it's up to us then to grade the report, and out of the 11 universities, the top four universities will progress to the finals, and that progression is based on your report itself. Sure. Yeah, and just a reminder that it's your report as well as your financial model that will be submitted and be marked together. So the Sydney final will be held here, same location. It's a presentation that you'll be doing in front of 3 judges. So you can use this sheet. Is I've written it down somewhere. Here we go. The 3 judges are Paul Smith, who is the CEO of CFA Institute. He's coming down for a day from the US as a judge. Crispin Murray, who's Head of Equities at Pendle. If you haven't heard of Pendle, it's BTFG. And lastly, Jelena Stefanovic, who's a PM at Platypus, who's an Aussie Equities Manager. So these are very experienced industry professionals who will be questioning you about why you've made a recommendation on a stock. So it feels like you actually, you know, in the industry, this is what really happens. You put a report up to your PM, your portfolio manager, and you're making that recommendation, and they'll question you and grill you about this, and you need to convince them of why you made that recommendation. So it's no different to that. And as I've mentioned, if you win, and so the local competition winner will be announced on the night of the finals. So the judges will actually go away and mark up, provide a mark on your presentation, and the winner will be announced on the night. And if you're the winner, the same stock, Telstra, will be used at the regional final, which is held in March next year. And if you progress, the same stock will be used again in the global final in New York, April next year. So let's just go over the rules. I'm not going to read over all the dot points. I think you'll need to read these up yourself. But let me just highlight a couple of important items. So an ineligible student is someone who has been previously or is currently employed in a role which involves fundamental company analysis as at today. So if you're working in one of those companies and this is something you do, then you're not eligible. However, if it's interns and cadetship, that's okay. If you're unsure, feel free to email us and we'll try to figure this out with you. And again, just make sure you read all the rules before you sign up and confirm back to us once you've read the rules and you comply to it. Okay, so we've got a number of faculty advisors sitting here today, as well as industry mentors. So I just want to give a high-level overview of the role of mentors and advisors here. So your faculty advisor is the expert on the academic side who can assist in your research skills, your analytical models, and your recommendation. They can also help you with your soft skills, such as report writing and your presentation style. They can provide up to 10 hours of productive time. They can't do the work for you, so don't tell them, hey, can you write it for me? This has to be your work, your original work. So they can't really give you definitive answers about what your report should be. You should be seeking advice from them. They should give you a different opinion of things and give you more of a mentoring guidance of your report, not giving the answers. Clear. Your industry mentor is an expert on professional practice and can advise on things like how you probe questions of Telstra. So, you know, as I said previously, the ability to ask good questions is very important in this, as well as your future career. So they help you with that. They can also help you with the macro environment, micro environment of the company. They have a maximum of 6 hours of productive time that can be spent with you. So some of the pointers here are for consideration. So what does a report look like? This, I think this is last year's report from the website. So as a starting point, I think it's always worthwhile just go to the CFA website and just download a report of previous years. I think all of them are up there. Have a look and gives you a sense of what this looks like. So the report must be no longer than 10 pages, not including the front back covers that is provided by the Institute on an A4 paper. You can provide an appendix, but the appendix is limited to 20 pages. The appendix has to be related to your report, so you can't just stick anything on there. It has to be noted in your report and relatable. I think there's a new rule this year Or was it last year? Yeah. And the rules are all there, but basically is make sure all the things like your company name, exchange, ticker symbol, sectors, industry, recommendation, all of that stuff is on there. So have a look at the previous year reports, but also look at your rules to make sure you have all the information that's available, that's required on the reports. Just want to make sure that, to be clear, the report must only contain publicly available information. So don't go and try to talk to Telstra behind the scenes. And it must be original work of your team members, and it should be prepared from a perspective of an independent research analyst. So pretend you are in buy side, you can pretend you're sell side as well, sell side research analyst, making a recommendation on the stock, and you're pitching this to portfolio manager. I think I get some questions previous years as well, maybe this year, is around formatting. We'll go into the score sheet later, but there's no rules about how you should format it, colours, all that scheme, all that stuff. And your marking sheet doesn't talk about that as well. So it's not a big factor, but it's just something visually and make it easy to read. Just one of the common questions I had. I think it's important to make sure that you work as a team. So initially you could divvy up the work and go, hey, you guys look at this section of the report while you do something else. But when you put the report together, it has to be cohesive. You don't want to see part of the report making this assumption whereas the other part's saying something else. So make sure you work together as a single team. It comes out as one piece, as one recommendation with basis. Just to give you a bit of context, because I was this saying about you as an analyst providing a recommendation to your portfolio manager. So in the industry, as a portfolio manager holding equity stocks, there are two types. There's a benchmark aware funds, and there are absolute return funds. So a benchmark aware fund, if I'm appointing an Aussie equity manager, they have a benchmark, say ASX 200. Their job is to outperform that benchmark. To do that, they will overweight or underweight relative to that benchmark. So hence it's important to, in your analysis, to argue what is the relative analysis of that stock. So Telstra, what is its competitor? So Optus. I'm not too familiar with the telecom sector, but what I'm saying is make sure your analysis is relative as well. Whereas, because some people see it from an absolute return perspective, where you're simply making a recommendation on just Telstra, but let's make sure it's relative as well. So going to the scoring sheet, this is what the report will be marked out of 100, and these are the sections that will be marked on. So there's no rules about what sections you can include in your report, but if you follow this format, at least when we mark it, you'll follow that those sections. I think as a tip to make sure it's important to provide a basis for your recommendation. You can make a claim about a company. You go, Telstra is good governance, but if you don't provide a basis why you believe that, you're not going to get the marks for it. So as a tip, make sure the basis is important. It's written well behind it. The graders will provide comments, and I don't think we did.
Last year, the first time what we did is we went through and we provided feedback to all the universities, just on each section where they scored well and where they didn't, just to try and help in terms of future years. And we're going to try and do that again this year, so we will have comments to everyone and we'll provide feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Meg. And just a repeat for A and U, we will provide feedback for the reports. This is the presentation scoring. It's similar. So you get 10 minutes. So it's a 20-minute presentation made up of 10 minutes the presentation itself and 10 minutes Q&A. Now, from past experience, most universities do a really good job in presentation because they just practice. So I think the thing that will stand out is your Q&A session. So be able to respond on the spot confidently and back it up with evidence is so important. So just keep that in mind. And remember, the judges are industry professionals in their work industry, and some of these guys do own this stock in their portfolio. So be prepared, they'll challenge your assumptions. So back them up and be confident. Okay, so now we'll just talk about the stock that we'll be providing research on. This is our subject company, Telstra. I'm not too familiar with the telecom industry, as I said previously. I use Telstra as my work phone. That's all I can say. So Michael, I think, will say a few words just on Telstra and its sector.
Hey guys, it's great to see such a great big interest in CFA challenge. It's good to see such a high caliber of candidates that are going to be the future of the finance industry. So you guys have Telstra to look at. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with Telstra. It's one of the great Australian brands. It's one of the mainstays of most Australians' investment portfolios, and it's one of the ASX blue chip companies. It's part infrastructure, part consumer, part B2B, and to be honest, historically quite a boring company to look at. It's traded in line with the ASX over the last 20 years, typically viewed as a yield stock. But I think now is really an interesting time to look at Telstra. There are a few issues that you guys will analyse over the next few weeks that are going to really impact the profitability, the dividend, and ultimately the share price of Telstra. At the forefront, Telstra's whole business model is changing. Historically, its golden asset has been its fixed line network, which has been taken away by the NBN. Nowadays, everyone's focused on mobile. And questions that come up with that are, what CapEx requirements are in mobile, what are the revenue trends, etc. Within mobile itself, consumer trends are changing. People are switching from voice calls to data. No one texts anymore. Everyone's on Snapchat or Facebook or one of those social media aspects, which also questions the CapEx requirements of the business model. To complicate things further, the competitive dynamics in the telco industry have never been more interesting than they are today. You've got the three main telcos fighting hand and fist to win customers. You've got a new entrant. And at the same time, you've got the next generation of networks with 5G, which presents potential revenue opportunities through the Internet of Things. So just as a quick summary, I'm really looking forward to you guys, your reports and what you guys think. And yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. That was good. So the one thing I know about Telstra is the exciting part is the 5G side of things. Something to look into, but I'm quite interested, is 5G has the mini pods, which potentially goes on to lamp posts, I think. So compared to old towers, they've got this little miniature things. Anyway, so because I'm looking at this because we've got infrastructure investment in this stuff. It's kind of really interesting. It's a really interesting technology, so maybe look into it. Okay, let's have a look at this year's teams. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 11 teams this year competing in the New South Wales and Queensland area. So top 4 teams here I've listed are the Queensland universities, so Queensland, Griffith, Bond, and University of Technology, QUT, it's hard to read that. And so here, in the New South Wales universities, what we'll do here is to draw your mentors. So we've got our industry mentors listed here. and we'll just draw them on the spot. So what I like is an rep from each university to come up, and we'll draw the mentor out of the bowl here. So let's start with, let's go in order. So Sydney University, would you like to come up? So Sydney University got Vincent Lin, and the reason I laughed is Vincent has Sydney University 4 out of 5 years. And,
redraw.
Anyway, okay. So New South Wales, representative. So you've got New South Wales has Darren. And Macquarie. Macquarie has Stephanie. Okay, next one is Wollongong. Has David McDonald. And Western Sydney. Western Sydney has Byron. And UTS. Last. Risha has with UTS. Okay, which means that ANU, you have Michael. You get a chance to go to Canberra. Okay. So remember who your mentors are. You get a chance to connect tonight, but also we'll provide information, your contact details over the next couple of days. So I think I've spoken enough. I think everyone's hungry and wanting to get a drink. So let's get into it. So remember to visit the CFI Institute website. It has all the past winners, company reports, and also gives you presentations, so you get to see what their presentation style, Q&As like. YouTube also has past presentations as well, so have a look at that as well. I think there's a tab on the website called Prepare. It has resources such as how to write a report, how to ask questions to the management. So have a look at that. I think that's all.
Yeah, could I just make a plea to everyone to check the spam inboxes? So we send you all our emails from a shared account, from the CFA Research Challenge account, but sometimes they go to spam, so please check that. You should all have an email that we sent earlier this week, which asks you to do 4 things for students. That's register, like Fran mentioned, confirm to us you've read the rules. Then we've asked you to attend an event for the Telstra briefing, so if you could please confirm that you're able to attend that, or if not, if you want to dial in. And then the 4th one, so FactSet, so mentioned earlier, all your academic advisors provided you with your email address, so we obviously want to get you set up with FactSet, but can you please confirm to us that you're happy for us to pass your details along? Just in the days of data privacy, we just want to make sure that you're comfortable and able to do that. So if you could all get back to us as soon as possible, that makes us set you up faster so you can get on with your research. And can I briefly say a quick thanks to Nicole? She's just really good trolley. So she's part of Investec and she's helped us set up the event tonight and also provided you with all the drinks. So very big thank you to her.
Thanks, Beck. And just with the fact that if you haven't provided your university email, if you could provide that, so it's going to have a uni email to provide. Okay, so just before drinks, any questions?
I have some questions.
Go ahead.
For the first time, so naive questions. So very quickly. So when you say submit the model, you have to submit the model as well. So can you tell me a bit more about what that means? In what form?
So I think we set the model. So the question was, what are we submitting when it comes to model? Or what is it? So I think we're receiving Excel.
Yeah, so Excel, but effectively, yeah, we want to be able to see the work you've done and follow through with the so don't PDF it, please, but it doesn't have to be pretty. So by all means, don't spend hours making it up for our benefit.
And
So we need to add to that. If you look to the marking sheet, there's a section of valuation, but the valuation is in the report. So the model is really for us to understand, making sure the model is actually done correctly.
and do we know who grades the report? Is it just industry professionals?
Yes. Yep.
And we tend not to release the names of those because we've had students who have to write
And who will they be asking in Telstra? So who will be
Who will be coming from Telstra? So we have an investor relationship person.
I don't remember the name.
I think we've got the deputy CFO.
Deputy CFO. Okay. Great. Yeah.
one final question? And when you say that if it did progress, they use the same company, but they write a different report, or they write
No.
the same report?
So the company, same report. So in the regional final, there's also markers on the report, so different markers. We use the same company, the same report. The presentation, you have the opportunity to update to the latest information, but you don't have to.
You also get additional time with your mentors. So if you progress, for example, to the Sydney final, you get an extra 2 hours with them. So definitely take advantage of that. And personal recommendation is get them to drill you on the Q&A. I'm sure the presentations will be fabulous and they'll be great, but where people really need to make a difference is on the Q&A. And your mentors are the best people to make them.
Yeah. Okay.
Could you just share some information about the Telstra briefing that will be happening before submission of the final report? Yes, on the Telstra.
Just on logistics of the.
Just the nature of the briefing in terms of what it may cut to, if that's allowed.
So the Telstra briefing, if you think about a company releasing their annual reports, they do an analyst call in the briefing. So in that briefing, you get the opportunity to ask any questions you want. And maybe this is a joke, but I think some of these equity analysts want to see management in their eyes and go, are you really telling me the truth? But logistics-wise, we'll send you more details on that.
Is there a reason to keep it very close to submission date? Because they don't have so much time after that briefing. So, because it would have been highly beneficial if that briefing had happened before, bit more, like a week before than it's actually happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably say two things. One, I guess everyone's on the same timeline, so there's no disadvantage in one team versus other. And secondly, the draft report is most likely to be completed much earlier than that. This is more opportunity to test your case. If you had to make a big change, then you've got a little bit of time left to do that. Okay, I think that's all the questions. So why don't we get to drinks? Anything else? Okay, done. Let's go drink. Cheers. Thanks, guys.